to Best in Faction,
The next generation.
A podcast where we're actually excited about the new mission pack.
Hey, something's exciting in the game right now. Boys, we are coming at you from the grim, dark presence of the March 2022 meta. It is, it is what it is. But we're still here trying to bring in the excitement, trying to bring the energy, getting excited about the game. And we have decided that instead of just talking about the couple of RTTs we've been to the last couple of weeks, we're going to focus in on something that is going to hopefully be sticking around a little bit longer than this godforsaken meta, and that is our Lord and Savior, the Nachmund Mission set, which has been out now for a couple of months at this point. It's been out maybe a month and a half. We've all played tournaments with it. We've all played practice games with it, and we want to talk about each and every mission inside and see what exactly is going on. But before we jump in too deep into that retrospective, how you guys doing? What you guys been up to last week? I haven't talked to you all in a while.
Yeah. What I've been up to the past week. Lucas and I went to a tournament last weekend, an RTT, called Lucas Makes the Top 16 at LVO. Hooray, beans for everyone. There were indeed mini beans for everyone. And they were quite delicious. And it was pretty fun. Ended up winning the tournament. Didn't have to play any S tier factions though. So pretty exciting, but I'm just waiting for the day I have to face off against Tower Custodes.
Yeah, I also went to my own tournament and also played against no S tier factions and lost the firstborn salamanders. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that when we go through the missions. But yeah, I've been doing that. I've also been doing some painting because I'm realizing we're going to a GT in April called Tau Tipping, which if you're in the Northwest, you should sign up for the Tau Tipping GT in Aberdeen. Or Hoquiam, I guess it's probably in. But yeah, I'm realizing I have a bunch of models to paint for that, and when I talk about how my list is evolving, I'm sure I'll talk about what models I did get painted up, but it turns out it's a lot of them. What about you, Tyler? What are you up to in this day and age?
Good stuff. Yeah. I'm going to an RTT tomorrow. So in practice for that, a buddy of mine who is a buddy of ours actually, who is kind of on the front end of his 40K career. He's getting into the game, getting into competitive. He's been playing a bunch of T-Suns, got tired of losing all his games, so I decided to lend him my Tau. And while teaching this guy how to play the game, he absolutely clobbered me, and I was not pulling punches. So that's Tau for you. So I'm feeling real great about the game. The other thing, though, on the other hand, is that I now realize that I have a very competitive 2K Tau army painted. So there's a new NIDS Codex coming out that I'm very excited about. We'll see if it's out before the major I'm going to in April. If it's not, meh, we'll see what happens. Anyway, so that's the situation. Tau and Custodes, obviously big menace. Have you guys had much experience into elves so far?
Yeah, I played against Eldar once. So I guess not much experience, but I've at least played against the new codex. I played against our buddy Jeremiah the other day in a practice game. They seem very strong. They didn't seem like absolutely crazy game breaking, but it was also like the first game he'd ever played with them. And I kind of had to leverage my all obsec to put some pressure on him. They feel like they hit like a truck and die pretty easily, but that like 5-up invul sprinkled throughout their army makes them a little tankier than you think.
And what about you, Lucas?
Yeah, I played against the same opponent Nick did with basically the same list. Actually, quite a bit different, but essentially the same list. The other night and absolutely got blasted. Elves seem pretty good. The thing that's terrifying to me is that they seem really good at scoring points, and they seem good enough at killing you that you can't just ignore their killing you in the hopes to prevent them scoring points, because then they will actually kill you. And if you try to prevent them from killing you, well, then you can bowling ball them over and wipe out their army, or try to. But then they're just going to score 100,000 points because you're not screening, you're not leaving stuff back on objectives, you're not playing defensive enough. That was the issue I ran into, and it's another issue also with my list that I'm seeing is I only operate in one phase, and that's the melee phase. So if there's something inside of a transport or something behind a 5-man screen, I just can't get to it. And so, him using those strategies against me was very difficult to deal with.
Interesting stuff. I'm sure we'll come around back at the end and talk a little bit about what we're playing right now and how we're going forward with it. But that's kind of what's going on. Seems a bit at glum, but I mean, Nick won a freaking tournament, so that's great. Big props to him for that.
That was fun.
We'll chat about some of those games as we go through. But without further ado, we are going to be talking about each of the individual missions. Now, we're not going to go over all of the secondaries at the moment. We'll bring them up as they apply to particular missions. But I'm sure you can read the book and look at them on your own. So
one more thing before we get started, Tyler.
Yeah.
At the end of our review of going through the missions quickly, we're going to be answering your guys' questions from the BIFPOD Discord about the mission pack. So if you have questions related to the mission pack, our opinions on it, any of that kind of stuff, go to the Lightning Round channel in the BIFPOD Discord, put your questions in there, or you can put them in the YouTube chat where you are watching us live right now. I don't know if there's anywhere else we're live, but
just YouTube, yeah. So YouTube chat, Discord, either way, we will cover some stuff. And that reminds me to say, if you would like to be a part of the show, to be a part of what's going on, and to get everyone's latest insights and join one of the greatest communities online, especially one of the greatest 40K communities online, we do have our Discord that you can join. It's over on Patreon. There's actually a bit of the pricing, I believe, is currently $10 a month, but I've heard some murmurings that might be changing. And also, if you want to see the three of us, as well as the rest of the Best in Faction collective crew playing some really sweet games, if you're already watching us on YouTube, you're already in the right place to go ahead and become a member of the channel. Being a member gets you access as to part 2s of a couple of different shows, Chasing the Narrative, Fight Club, being the 2 big ones right now, and eventually some hobby content will be in there. But really, the big draw for me right now, at least, is these awesome short form battle reports that we've been putting out. They're 30 to 60 minutes, maybe 90 in length, from like 4-hour games. They're played real fast, and it's all retrospective. So it's commentators who just played the game talking to each other about what's happening, and it's about as insightful as it gets. NOJ, Lukas, and I are going to be up there in 2 weeks filming a whole bunch of these. It's going to be a ton of fun, but there's already a handful of them up. Jump on into that membership, check it out. It's really good stuff. Anything else I forgot to plug? Oh, make sure to hit all the buttons, your likes, your comments, your subscriptions. If you're on a podcast platform with reviews go a long way. If you love the show, tell them that TNG sent you, and if you find us revolting, tell them how much you hate Fight Club. So, with that all being said, we're going to jump right on in to mission number 11, which is Recover the Relics. Nick, you want to detail, just walk through the rules of this mission before we break down some thoughts?
Yeah, like the tertiary and all that stuff. So this mission is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more to get 4, 8, 12. The main rule on this mission, each mission kind of has like a little twist on it. This one says that you do not get your Battle Forge CP bonus, so your CP every turn, if you do not hold at least one of the No Man's Land objectives at the start of your command phase. So if you don't have any like forward deployers or pre-game movers, you're not getting that CP turn 1 on this mission, which for me hasn't been that impactful because I mean, my whole army pre-game moves, but it definitely has been some people that I played against. The tertiary on this one is called Break Them Body and Soul, and at the end of each battle round, you score a victory point for each enemy unit destroyed during the battle round to a maximum of 3. So it's kind of like a little mini grind them down. Encourages you to like go out and fight your opponent.
Awesome. Yeah, so those are the rules going into this one. I think here's an interesting question. What did you guys think? This is obviously sort of the glow up from what did this used to be called? Retrieval. Mm-hmm. What did you guys think of Retrieval before we got into this as a mission in the old pack?
Do you want to go first, Nick? I have some pretty...
Yeah, hey, go ahead. I'll come in after, yeah.
I loved Retrieval. I thought it was really fun. It was one of the missions that promoted more defensive play, but while it looks like the objectives on like either side, on either long board edge, are far from each other, between like the little bit the objective extends and then the 3-inch diameter of the neoprene itself, Those objectives are only like 9 or 10 inches from each other, which is within threat range. So it's like a mission where you, if you want to, you can play a very standoffy, cagey game. But if one person doesn't want to do that, then they can force a more aggressive, interactive game that's pretty fun. This is one of the missions that, for example, like Death Guard was really good on because they didn't mind taking while we stand banners and then maybe another defensive secondary. Yeah, I
Spread the
mean,
sickness is real good on this.
yep, yeah. So any one of those, I don't think you can do that in banners, but either way,
Oh, yeah, sure.
it's what the point of what I was saying is it's a fun defensive mission, and I feel like this was a nice like slight twist to make it a little bit more interactive because you have to kill MSU units, and also you have to actually stand on those objectives in the midfield and then take them from your opponent in turn. So if it's there's more interaction with this mission, I feel like it's good fun. I liked Retrieval before, and I like this about the same. I've only played it once, but that's my take on it.
Yeah. I'd agree with Lucas. I really liked Old Retrieval. Necrons have always been like a defensive style army, so I liked a mission that like promoted that. What else? I like that it was like an easy banners mission. I know like it was either like you took banners or scramblers a lot of the time, or banners and R&D. So I like that I could take banners on this one. The issue I had with it is, I guess, promoting like super defensive play. I'm not a huge fan of armies that are like while we stand action based secondary, other uninteractive secondary. So they just like sit back behind a wall and they go, "Cool, I'm gonna stand here and win." It's kind of interesting, but I really like that the new change on this one. Like you get tertiary points for killing your opponent. And you also, if you really, really want to, can take both their objectives and deny their CP every turn. So that's like, you're kind of really overextending for that. I like that there's that choice. I like that you're kind of encouraged to go out and fight your opponent because that's where, what is it? You're taking risks, right? You're making decisions and maybe some mistakes happen. And that's where like kind of these fun avenues open up in 40K where your opponent's like, you're trading back and forth with your opponent. I've really enjoyed that style of the game a bit more than just the stand back and win.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are upset about the fact that there's kill points back in the game. I don't think it's that big a deal. It's one mission. It's a tertiary, so like you can win the game without it. It makes it a little harder, but it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
And like it's dumb when killing a unit is like so many points every turn, like what we had in what was it, 8th edition. But I mean, it's on one mission. It's not even the end of the world. I think it's kind of fun. It's
Also,
also like it's one more factor that kind of plays into how you build your army. Is if you want to put a bunch of MSU in there, you know that you have a little bit of a harder time on this mission, and I think that's kind of a fun added quirk to list building.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. There's a lot of people who decry like kill point based everyone has it kind of things, sort of on principle, and I generally agree that they can have negative effects on the game, but it does add that little bit of spice for this mission. I think that's something that this mission really lived and died on though was terrain. When I would play this mission on like a GW, I don't know what GW trans in this, but like on a lot of presets, you would very often see like maybe one of the two midfield objectives is covered, one's out in the open, or if there's some like very breachable stuff. When I play this mission on player place terrain, like I played retrieval rather, round one into Death Guard at LVO, and we were playing on a table with those giant impassable foam hills. And each of us were like, cool, I have two foam hills. They each go in front of my two midfield objectives. Basically, we both hold three comfortably the entire game until someone does something interesting. And that felt a little not great, but that was more of a terrain issue necessarily than a fundamental issue with the mission itself. Non-breachable terrain has a place, but I think there can be a little bit too much of it on FLG boards sometimes.
Yeah, this is one of the weaker player place terrain missions for sure. Not weaker in the sense that it's bad, but weaker in the sense that it's just kind of boring because it's very obvious where you put your terrain. I don't think that's the end of the world, and maybe we can talk more about player place terrain at the end of the episode. But
Yeah.
it is one thing to know about this mission is it can be very standoffish if you get to put your terrain wherever you want it.
Yeah. I agree. I will also call back something that Nick was pointing out. It is a bit of a bummer for factions that don't have the ability to get those objectives top one to just be playing down a CP. currently it's not a problem for me because I've got jackals. But if I were playing mono GSC, not mono, sorry, mono Tyranids, no forward deployers unless you bring a Sporocyst who can't hold an objective anyway, and no pregame moves. Like just being down a CP for playing the wrong mission feels real annoying. But I think that there's not a lot of factions that fit into that category right now, and the ones that are getting rolled over pretty soon. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But I think this is just one more reason that you have to take forward deployers or pregame movers in 9th edition. It's just mandatory.
Yeah. I know there's another mission we'll talk about, but I like that this one like kind of encourages like a pre-deployer or two. And then there's that other mission later on that's like no forward deploy, no pre-game move outside your DC. I like that there's like little benefits for bringing some of these, more niche roles, and then there's also some downsides in other missions. So you never know which mission it'll be good or strong on. I guess you do know, but throughout the tournament, you'll have one mission where maybe this is really strong and one mission where this is like not as strong. I like that.
All right, I think we should move on to the next mission.
Yes.
We got 9.
Cool. All right, trudging on, we move over to tear down their icons. I'm going to explain this one because it's got a lot of words. This is the elusive bombing mission that everyone loves or hates so much. We'll talk about Oda. I'm sure we don't all have the same opinion of this one. It's quite contentious. But for those of y'all not watching but rather listening at home, this is the priority objectives layout, but none of the objectives move. So we have the funky, like, I think it's like 26 inches apart deployment zones that are corner to mid-table, and the 5 objectives with 1 in the center. It's a take and hold again, so hold 1, 2 more. And then the tertiary of this is all about bombs. So we have 2 different actions involved, prime explosives and diffuse explosives. Prime explosives allows 1 unit from your army to perform the action at the end of your movement phase if they are within opponent's territory, that is to say table half, not deployment zone, and more than 9 inches away from any other primed explosives. If the unit... Oh, interesting. Yeah, both your prime explosives and your opponents. I hadn't realized that you can sort of block out where your opponent can drop stuff by putting things right on the line. That's interesting. If the unit performing this action has Ospec or a similar rule, the action is completed at the end of your turn. Otherwise, it's at the end of your next command phase. And again, this is absolutely any kind of unit. I don't see any limitations here whatsoever. If it's successfully completed, you set up a bomb within 3 inches and wholly within the opponent's territory. It's not an objective or anything, it's just a bomb. And then there's also the diffuse explosives action, which allows 1 unit from your army can start to perform this action at the end of your movement phase if they're within range of a primed explosive objective marker within your own territory, and there are no enemy units, excluding aircraft, within range of the same primed explosives objective marker. The action is completed at the end of your turn, provided the unit attempting it is still within range of the same marker, so no obsec required. It only takes 1 turn for anyone. And if the action is successful, you'll roll a die and add 3 if it's obsec. And on a 4-up, you remove the bomb. So automatically for objective secured units, on a 4-up for everyone else, you take down a bomb. And that also can be done with anyone, including aircraft. The only exclusion on aircraft is that they don't prevent bombs from being exploded. So there's a lot to talk about here. Oh, and then the actual the tertiary points. At the end of the game, you get 4 victory points for every bomb that is left on the table that you planted, up to a maximum of 15. A lot going on here, boys. What do you think?
Yeah, who here's actually played this mission? I have not played this one yet.
I've played it once.
Cool.
I think it's do you want to go first, Tyler? I'll just go first.
You should go first, please.
I mean, I feel like this mission is very good for armies that like playing a very certain way and like the MSU style. Like I could see Harlequins being pretty good on this mission. I could see Craftworld Eldar being absurdly good on this mission. I know Dark Eldar are good on this mission. For armies that don't have that much speed and MSU, I feel like this is just kind of like whoever goes second maybe plants a bomb, or if someone's really bullying someone out of some corner of the table, they plant a couple bombs. But in general, I feel like the tertiary is not super impactful unless one person's army is very well tailored to being able to plant explosives. Like this is one mission where having 10 or 15 racks or some witches or extra troops in your Harlequin's army makes a big difference because you just slam down bombs every turn and then say, I'm going to keep doing this unless you want to come deal with my 40-point unit of crap. That's, trolling around in your backfield or in the side of your backfield. Overall, though, I actually like this deployment zone. This is the corner deployment that I like the best. I think it's definitely better than Sweep and Clear, and I think it's arguably more fun than Vital Intelligence, which we'll talk about next. But it's kind of fun. Feels like there's 4 objectives within striking distance, which is always nice. Some of the missions, it feels like there's way too many objectives that are far away. I have to really expose myself to really threaten those. This one, you can threaten 3 and sort of kind of 4 objectives, right from turn 1, which I think is good.
Yeah, for sure. I think that this mission really promotes OBSEC more than any other mission does. If you don't have OBSEC, you're not planting bombs in a turn, you're not auto-diffusing bombs, and that's a problem. What I think is really cool here is that this is an incredible mission for armies with just piles of trash. Because you think, oh, I need people to plant bombs, oh, I need people to defuse bombs. I think that neither of those are the most important thing. I think the most important thing is having cheap units to protect bombs. Because the action cannot be started if there is a unit next to the bomb. Full stop, if I'm reading that right. Yeah. If there are no enemy units within range of the bomb, can't do it. So what you want to do, in my mind at least, is rush out with something OBSEC quickly. If it's OBSEC and forward deploying, even better. Plant a bomb, and then have more and more trash to throw on it. And in particular, I think like the ideal version of that is where you're planting the bomb very close to an objective marker, because the bombs only have to be 9 inches away from each other, not from the objectives. So if you get a bomb in midfield, especially, because then you're like dead center on the table, because then your opponent can't plant one within 9. You get a bomb there. You get a bomb on your opponent's like second objective, and you just start throwing crap over there. You're gonna get some real points out of this, and I think that's it's gonna be a fun strategy. I've played this mission once. I played it into Custodes. We tied, and in fact, we only did tie because I was able to use this strategy to protect some bombs. If I had understood it earlier, it might have been even better. I think this is a ton of fun. And I also agree that it's a small second turn advantage because you get basically a free bomb if you still have dudes kicking around. They got to be OBSEC though, I think, because it doesn't the action doesn't finish at the end of the game if that's before the end of the next command phase. So I'm a huge fan. I agree with Lucas. The DZs are really good. This is a great mission in my opinion.
How many bombs did you have go off in that Custodes game?
I had just one bomb go off. It was a very tight game at the end of the game there, but I could very easily. I think that with a little bit more practice, I could pretty reliably get 2 going off at the end of a game. 3 if I go second, maybe. That's just a lot of points, right? 4, 8, 12 points. Like end game point swings are also great in my mind. This is super cool. One of the reasons I love this mission is that it has play at all times. Like it's an end game point swing that you get to play for all game. So at the end of the game, like you can be just setting stuff up late, but you can also, a bomb goes down turn 1. If that's the only bomb that's going to go down, maybe you defuse that bomb turn 5. Like you can put off dealing with it later, and that sort of resource management at a super macro scale, I think is a ton of fun.
It's also, it matters through the game, but it's also bombs you plant later in the game are more likely to go off than ones you plant earlier in the game, just because they stick around less and they're maybe more out of your opponent's way as they're running out of resources. I really like that. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it kind of adds to the tension of like, there's a huge swing coming and I'm going first. And I know my role in this game now is to put pressure on my opponent, but like, holy crap, they're going to have like a 26-point swing. This is something this mission set does so well, is it makes big point swings at the end really feasible. So it's fun and you always feel like you're playing for something, unless you get matched into one of these kind of BS S-tier armies that just ass blast you immediately. But in general, I feel like, A-tier and B-tier armies fighting against each other, which there's a lot of right now, it's pretty fun. Like, you feel like you're playing for something throughout the whole game, and I really appreciate that, because sometimes in the old missions, it was like you kind of had to figure it out by turn 2 or 3, and it was just kind of going through the motions. This is definitely not going through the motions. There's stuff to play through all the way through.
Absolutely. I will say, on that note, if you are not currently playing the game with a chess clock, start tomorrow. playing through 5 turns is more important now than it has ever been
Oh yeah,
before.
that's definitely true.
If you play like Knights or Custodes or something, you don't need to bother. But like having a game get cut short by even 1 turn right now is just catastrophic. And I mean, I've been an advocate of clocks as long as they've been out. I really hate getting screwed over by slow play, whether intentional or not. It's just not fun. Now, that turn 5 is this like second or second most impactful turn of the game, you have to play it. Play 5 turns, get on a clock, whatever you got to do. Learn to play fast. It's more important than
ever. Yeah. All right, mission 13. Let's do it.
Cool. You want to walk us through Data Scry Salvage, Lucas?
Sure. Let me get it in my packet. All right. So I'll assume that you guys have all played Vital Intelligence, which was the previous rendition of this mission, because it'll make it a lot easier to talk about. Basically, nothing has changed. The objectives haven't changed. The measurements haven't changed. You're still 24 inches apart, more or less. It's still a hold 2, hold 3 mission. And the tertiary is, this was one of the missions that had sticky objectives. Now the objectives are only sticky if you hold it with Ospec in your command phase. Something small change to note. That's pretty impactful. And then the tertiary is an action that you do on your home field objective that completes at the end of your turn and gives you up to 3 points for midfield objectives you control. So this is a mission where it might not look like Stranglehold is very good, but basically if you get Stranglehold every turn, you're getting 6 points instead of 3, as long as you have a crap unit in the back to push the button on your home field objective. I've played this mission. Who among you guys have played this mission?
I have.
Yeah, I mean, I played Old Vital a few times, but I haven't played the new one.
Okay, so I think this mission is fun. I think not a lot has changed. It's pretty fun. The fact that you have to have a unit back there to hold your objective the whole time, even if, it's sticky because of Obsec, you have to keep hitting the button because 3 points every turn is pretty important. I think that's kind of fun. I also like the mini game of trying to blast your opponent off of their backfield objective. For people that don't have backfield defense, armies like Eldar and GSE can really exploit a weak backfield and kill your unit of crap that's back there and prevent you from getting a whole bunch of points. So overall, I think this mission is fun. It still has all the strengths and weaknesses of the previous version. Armies that like spreading out like this mission, armies that are flexible like this mission, armies that want to take the center and move really slowly in general don't like this mission very much. But overall, I think it's good fun. There has to be some variety in missions and how they affect different armies, and I think this one has a good variety, and it's in the middle of a packet that has very few missions that are similar to it. So I feel like this mission is good. What do you feel like, Tyler?
Yeah, absolutely. Vital in the old pack was always my favorite mission because I play armies that really like to spread out and be in a bunch of different places. And I like this version of it even more. Sticky objectives being keyed to OBSEC is a really interesting change. As someone whose now only source of pregame moving doesn't have OBSEC, I had like a glorious couple weeks where I could sticky some gosh darn objectives, and well, now that's over. But whatever the case, I quite like it. I will also mention that much like I was saying in the last objective, this is another one where you can prevent people from hitting the button just by putting anything on the backfield objective. You don't need to hold it or kill the stuff there. They can't hit the button if there's a non-aircraft model in range of the objective. So for me personally, the Keller Morph is hilarious on this mission, because not only is he dropping in and trying to assassinate backfield characters or go after something small and chaffy, he can deep strike in outside of 6 and then move 6. And if that ends up with a toe on that objective, congratulations, I just denied you 3 points, or however many you were going to get from that tertiary, which is a pretty big deal in the scheme of things. So I'm a big fan of that being a fun little thing to play with. I don't know if you mentioned, but or I guess you said like in Vital, this is a domination mission. This is our first domination of the pack. Hold 2, hold 3. And I think that this is the best domination mission in general. Or sorry, it certainly was last pack.
Not anymore.
Yeah, no. This is now worse than Tide of Conviction by a good margin.
This is I love this mission. If you haven't heard me talk about it before, this is the best mission. We haven't talked much about secondaries. This is the best mission for Pierce the Veil. as your deployment zone is only 15 inches away from the opponent's battlefield edge. So if you can get a wizard that moves over 9 inches, like a double moving Neurothrope, for example, or a Magus that deep strikes, or a Hive Tyrant or something, you can very reliably get into that corner and be casting Pierce the Veil immediately. And that's already an objective that you want to build a fortress on. So I very often would stick a lot of my chunk on that top left objective, so that I have 2 that are very reliably held for primary, and then march my way down the diagonal, expanding my territory while casting Pierce the Veil. That generally has been a pretty solid strategy for me on Vital and now on Data Scry.
Yeah, I feel like this is a fine mission. I kind of have 2 gripes with it, and I'll see if I remember the second after I tell you guys about the first. The first is that because it's domination, big point swings matter so much more than they do on hold 1, hold 2 missions. Like if you take 1 or 2 objectives to an opponent one time, or like your opponent fails to get stranglehold, it's like, okay, that's like a 12 points for your opponent on the primary. They're going to put you on a 0. They get stranglehold and you don't. That's like 20 points. And the expected value for, points that people are getting this game is like 50 or 60. That's a 30 points right there in one swing just because you whiffed one time. That's happened to me twice already on this mission, and I think it's a real bummer, honestly. Like I was saying about the bomb mission, one of the most fun parts of this packet is when the games feel close and scrappy and you're just fighting for every single... Like the bomb mission, it feels like there's a bunch of little 4-point swings. This one feels like if there's one big swing, it's done. Like that's happened to me twice now, and I've lost both those games. Is like I low roll by like 1 deviation, and all of a sudden I've lost the game, and it's a serious bummer. And I was gonna say the other one, but I forget. So
All right, I want to chime in because I have not talked about this mission at all yet. Yeah, I want to say I really do not like this mission. Now it is definitely because my army is a bit weaker on it, so that's fine. That's fine that like my army has a mission that's like weak. That's good. Good to have in the pack. Like if my army was good at every mission, that'd be bad. That'd be unhealthy.
That'd be Custodians.
Yes, exactly. One of the issues I have with this is like in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's like the idea behind this mission? Like, what were they designing for? Everything's super spread out, right? Like, there's no center objective. The 2 objectives on like the left and the right are within 12 of each other, but then it's like 24 apart to get to either side. So you're fighting these like very isolated battles. So a lot of armies can really only like commit to one quadrant, and then like they're there the rest of the game. It's really hard for them to shift over to the other quadrant. Like what Lukas said, if you like underperform a little bit on that quadrant, you lose. You lose that quadrant. You can't get to the other quadrant. Game's over, especially because it's a hold 2, hold 3 mission. So I'm like, okay, so they're rewarding fast armies, right? Here's the thing though, like fast armies are good in every mission. Speed's always good in 40k. You can maybe argue like sure, like a lot of like the fast armies like Harlequins and Eldar and Dark Eldar are not that tanky, so maybe they aren't good at like center objective missions. Like an army that can like ball up in the middle, like a Dark Eldar Harlequin Eldar army isn't gonna kill, but like that doesn't happen. What we've heard and what we've seen is that those armies are so hyper killy. Like you ball up in the middle and then they go cool and they like kill your whole army. Maybe Dark Eldar not as much to some extent. Now they like bounce off a little bit, but I guess my issue with this mission is they feel like they designed it for fast armies, but fast armies are good all the time. So it's just like another mission that they have a huge advantage on.
Yeah, okay. I think that is more an issue of the current balance around those armies. That speed is currently undercosted, and a lot of things get to be super fast and super killy and not very expensive. I think that fundamentally I like the idea of this mission, but I agree that it can end up being a bit of a win more for factions that are already S tier. If the meta looks very different and we're playing in like a very Black Templar-y Foot Custodies kind of meta where things are very durable, knights and stuff, I like this as a balancing act when there are, as we'll get to, 2 sweep and clear missions in this pack. I like that there's one that punishes that kind of build pretty hard.
The other thing I want to say too, because this is a hold 2, hold 3, I know we talked about like other missions where it's like, oh, you get 3 tertiary a turn and maybe those help, right? But those are like hold 1, hold 2. You're usually getting 8 a turn. This one, you're probably lucky if you get 4 a turn. Like you're probably getting a reliable 4 and you're lucky if you get 8 a turn. So you really need to hit that button every turn, the data intercept. I'm okay with like backfield deep strikers coming in and messing with you, right? That's something you can screen out. Something you have no control over, though, is your opponent sitting on the other side of the board shooting 48-inch range Ignore LOS at you and, like, killing your unit hitting the button. So Ignore LOS is already really strong. This is also a mission that Ignore LOS just, like, messes with your opponent's primary a ton. And there's a lot of correlation between, like, fast armies that Ignore LOS armies. I mean, I'm talking about Eldar here, but armies that are a little overtuned are going to be, like, destroying you on this mission, and that's something I really dislike. So.
Cool. Yeah, valid concerns. Sweet. So we're gonna move on from this then over to probably the most contentious mission of the packet. This is abandoned sanctuaries. We alluded to this earlier. Nick, you want to walk us through what's going on here, starting with what the map is like for people who are listening in?
Yeah, people aren't listening in. It's a Dawn of War. There are 3 objectives, just like one right in the center, 2 18 inches away on either side, and then there's an objective. I think it's like, I don't see the measurements on here, but I think it's like 8 inches up in your DZ. It's like right on the front of your DZ in the center of the board. The main special rule in this mission, you might be like, okay, everyone's really close. The main special rule is that you cannot pre-game move outside your DZ and you cannot forward deploy. So that's super, super cool. Yeah, it's a hold 1, hold 2, and the tertiary, secure the sanctuaries. You score 2 victory points at the end of your turn if you satisfy at least one of the following conditions for holding the objective marker in the center of the battlefield or destroying an enemy unit that was within 6 of the center of the battlefield at the start of your turn. And at the end of the battle, whoever controls the objective marker in the center scores 5 more VP. So there is a lot of encouragement over either taking the middle or clearing the middle every turn, and also, again, going second, getting that objective at the end of the game. Gets you a nice little 5-point swing.
I have not played this one yet, but this feels like Dogpile the Middle. What about you? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's I've played this mission a handful of times. And absolutely, this is the most centered. Like, you couldn't, like, there's a version of playing this game where you can say, forget the middle. My opponent is playing Black Templars. My opponent is playing Triple Telemon. I'm not getting that. Forget it. I'm gonna go play the edges and go play in the middle, and I'm just gonna kill a unit out of the center of the table every turn. Because if your opponent just leaves their Terminators, I mean, maybe they just leave their Terminators there, and you can't do that. This strategy doesn't work. Because your opponent is then just they're getting 8 points a turn basically for free because you're not pulling them off the middle and you're not pulling them off their home field, and they're getting the 2 points a turn for holding the middle, and they're definitely going to get the 5 at the end. So 2 points it's over 5 turns and 5 at the end of the game. That's a full 15 there. 15 points of tertiary plus 8 points a turn is 32. They max primary. So you better have another way to max primary if you're not going to grab the middle, and I don't think that there is one. So this is the dogpile the middle objective. If your goal is to dogpile the middle, I would my like how Pierce the Veil was the recommended secondary for Data Scry. The recommended secondary for Abandoned Sanctuaries is probably Investigate Signal. This is a really strong mission for absolutely hold the middle and nothing else matters. If you're playing Tau, you have Ethereals who allow Crisis Suit units to action and shoot. And Investigate Signal is very easy if you're already standing in the middle and fighting really hard for it. So I would highly recommend looking into that if you're not super familiar with it. It makes this mission a really hard win more for Tau. Yeah, so it's a big scrum in the center. I don't love it. What do you think about this, Nick? You've played this one, right?
Yeah, I've played this one. I actually never thought about the Investigate Signal. I usually just take R&D on this one because it's like really hard for my opponent to screen out the corners. This is Dawn of War. But now that you've said that, I might give that a try. Yeah, I mean, this mission, like you said, I thought like maybe there was a strategy where you could go out to the sides, but there aren't really a lot of hyper efficient shooting units that can like reliably clear the middle, like outside of Tau. Like maybe Tau could do that, like take the sides and just clear the middle every turn with all their rerolls. But like I can't think of many other armies that can. So a lot of other armies have to default to like, I'm gonna smash you in the middle, or we're gonna play this trading game back and forth. I mean, I enjoyed that because it's it's encouraging you to go out and fight in the middle. Like you guys are killing each other. That's super cool. Like you aren't just sitting back at that sort of thing. But I definitely felt like I had a huge advantage because I'm playing tanky all Ospec army. So every turn I'm like, I'll take the middle again. I'll take the middle again. And this mission plays exactly to the strengths of my army, which is you come to the middle. Now here comes the king and my whole army, and we just get to live here all game. So I think it's a little contentious. I enjoy it because there is so much fighting going on, but I can see why someone who doesn't really have an army that can hang in the middle or clear the middle in one turn enjoys it.
Definitely. I will say, the thing that makes this mission, I think, so contentious is not actually the way it plays, but it's a very mixed opinion on the no man's land rule that you can't forward deploy on this one. It was very clear in Recover the Relics why the kill points are added, right? Like it's a mission where it's too easy to play non-interactive. Let's give an extra leg up to someone who's going to go in and try and punch stuff. The bombs in Tear Down Their Icons are really interesting because they force you to be in your opponent's face a little bit more and not just go up and tow the center objective. In Data Scry Salvage, forcing you to hit the button and get more points. Interesting is it forces you to continually throw units away and not just play a sit-back game again. This is the opposite. This is preventing you from going out at least early. Why do you think this is here? And what do you guys think about it as a mechanic?
I got a good idea. I think it's to prevent, like, the objectives are fairly close to each other. Like they're 18 inches away, right? And that's from the center. So it's really like 15 inches away from the, well, no, it's like 12 inches away because of the edges, yeah, between the objective markers. That's really close. Like all these objectives, like from the center, you could go out to either side of the objectives and just charge and clear them. I think it's to prevent you from just taking over the board turn 0. Like if you could forward deploy in the middle and the sides, or like you could build up like a little castle between 3 objectives, like turn 0, it's going to be really, really, really hard to get that tertiary on this mission. So I think it's to prevent that.
Makes sense. Well, what do you think, Lucas?
I'm not having played it, I don't really know. And I don't think forward deployers are even that important right now. And if they were important, I don't think that the fact that you could not use them on 1 out of the 9 missions would really impact you very much. I don't know. I feel like everyone's in a tizzy about this mission for very little reason. Maybe it's because my army right now doesn't have many forward deployers, or any really. But like whatever, it's Dawn of War. It's super easy to get the objectives anyway. They're 8 inches off of your deployment side, or 8.5 or whatever. Like, just it doesn't seem that big a deal. It's some nice variety. I don't think it's that big a deal. I think everyone's upset about nothing over this mission. I think it's fine one. Maybe I'll have a different opinion when I actually play it, but I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of fair. I think in my mind, I really would really have liked to have forward deployers here, strictly as a screening tool. Because if I can't keep you from, if I can't kill you once you get to the middle, if at least I had an opportunity to prevent you from getting there in the first place, that would be nice, but
I think that might have been their idea, is like it would be dumb if a 5-man 40-point unit prevented someone from getting like 6 points in the primary/tertiary. Which seems like the obvious way to play around this mission.
Yeah.
Is put a little crappy unit in the middle or move blocking it. Whatever. Yeah, I don't think it's the biggest deal.
I will say also, this is what I have not done. No, did I? No, I have not yet played this mission on player placed terrain. This looks like a really weird mission for player placed. Do you guys see why?
I mean, yeah, the old packet had a ton of those, right? Where the objectives were in the middle. Objectives on the middle line are whack for player placed terrain, because unless your buildings don't have windows, they can't be protected then. Basically. Unless you have a very specific shape of ruin, which I don't really like. That was something that was super annoying about the old mission, was the old packet was like you couldn't protect midfield objectives. And now with all the diagonals, there's a lot less of that. This is one mission where there is still a lot of that. And especially because Dawn of War, well, Is Dawn of War better for shooting armies? I feel like Dawn of War is better for shooting armies, right? Because
Dawn
of
of War is
angles.
better for shooting armies because of angles. Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's not as good for defensive shooting armies, but the angles is the big thing. Yeah, because like this is the spiritual successor of Battle Lines, right? Like I think we would agree on that.
Yeah.
And Battle Lines, basically, there were some times where you would have terrain that could block off the middle, and when you did, that sucked. It was so not fun. It was worse than retrieval because it was like, okay, cool. You get whoever gets we each get those pieces of terrain down. The objectives can be held but not seen. Huge advantage for melee armies because there's so few angles you can cut on Hammer and Anvil. Now it's wildly the opposite. If you happen to have some player placed terrain that can get you a little bit of safety. We didn't talk about player placed on Data Scry, but this is, I think, even though they are on the diagonal, this is one of the best missions for player placed.
Absolutely
it's
agree.
Really interesting what you can and can't do. And the angle playing is a ton of fun because it's diagonal. Now that we're on went too far. Now that we're on Dawn of War, the angles are super easy, so unless you're playing with some very specific terrain pieces, basically all three objectives in the middle are wide out in the and yeah, it's a big scrum in the center. I don't personally love it, but it's not awful.
There's so many missions now with the center objective. I feel like this is one of the weaker middle objective missions. I think there's a lot.
Of the 5, this is undoubtedly my least favorite.
This is probably my bottom 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I think we can move on.
Yep. Yeah. Cool. So there's some thoughts about
mission
abandoned sanctuaries.
It's all right.
Moving on. We get to conversion. I'll walk us through this one. So this is the old school sweep and clear deployment zones, also known as the worst deployment zones, also known as the 12 inches away from your opponent deployment zones, also known as table quarters, also known as every Custodes and Templar and Death Guard players' favorite one, also known as why we need player place terrain. Good. So it call it what you want. It's table quarters with 5 objectives, just like sweep and clear was. We got a mission rule over here called leading from the front, which comedically enough forces you to have your warlord lead from anywhere but the front, which is that in this mission you only get your CP for Battleforge at the start of your command phase if your warlord is on the battlefield or embarked within a transport currently. And that is, if you thought holding pregame objectives was going to be polarizing, that is wildly different for different factions, some of whom will just get their 5 CP and forget that this is even a rule, some of which are going to have to make some very difficult decisions. Primary-wise, it's a take and hold 1, hold 2. Notably, this is not sticky. We are in sweep and clear deployment, but we're not sticky in any way. We're fresh out of the shower. It's great. And then we also have our tertiary here called Corrupted Ground. And it's at the end of each player's turn. The player whose turn it is scores 4 whole victory points if they control the objective marker in their opponent's DZ, 2 victory points if they control 1 or more objective markers in no man's land, so that's 2 for 1, and that's it. If you hold all 3, it's still only 2 points, and they lose 1 victory point, which I don't think there's anywhere else that this had happened before, if you do not control the objective marker in your own deployment zone. So don't give up your home field too quickly. Your point score can now be reduced to less than 0 in case you were doing that bad. You'll still get at 0. You can lose your paint points, though, which I find very funny. This is the first mission where you can give someone under a 10 if they show up painted. So that's what's going on. Maximum of 6 points per turn on that tertiary, trying to hold the midfield, trying to hold the backfield. I'm pretty sure we've all played this mission. What do you guys think?
I love this mission. I think it's so much fun. This is the mission I lost to Firstborn Salamanders on, and if I can try to put it succinctly, the thing I like about this mission so much is that every objective feels important. The least important of the objectives are just like holding all 3 of the midfield ones, and the midfield ones are still really important. A, because they're midfield, so they're easily accessible, and B, because they get you 2 primary points. All I'm saying is that you don't have to hold all 3 of them. But like protecting your backfield is, if you don't, it's points for your opponent and it's points off your tertiary. And getting to your opponent's backfield is points for you, points off their tertiary. So instead of like most missions where defending the backfield is just like, oh, it's nice if I get the 4 points for primary from that. That's the expected result, but it's not the end of the world. If I lose it, I'll go retake it. Like every single time you lose your backfield, it's like a 5 point swing plus the 4 points on primary. So I think this mission is awesome. It's pretty fun. I actually like the sweep and clear deployment. The other thing that's crazy is if we're going off of battlefield edges, your like Dawn of War table side is where you get to deploy terrain for player place terrain, which is pretty cool because in my head anyway, it's the so like if I'm the red player, so I guess there's people listening to the podcast. So if I'm in the bottom left corner, I would think that like my closer midfield half would be just right above me, but actually where I'm deploying terrain is to my right. So there's like a lot of weird terrain shenanigans you could do to try to block your opponent or make things easier for yourself. And I think that's really fun. I think the sweep and clears in general, and also data scry salvage, like you said a second ago, Tyler, are some of the best player place terrain missions because they're just being able to deploy terrain on a Dawn of War mission is fun, especially when the opponent isn't starting in a Dawn of War deployment, so it takes them a while to cut those angles. Um, I don't know. I think this mission is super fun. The whole warlord thing, it's like it's kind of a bummer if you lose your warlord, but it's not the end of the world. I think the tertiary is really really fun, and the name of the mission is conversion. It's all about converting objectives that were your opponent's to yours. A lot of the mission tertiaries are like flip an objective that your opponent had control of. This is the one where that makes the biggest difference because it's such a big swing on points. How do you feel about this mission, Nick?
Yeah. I was encouraged to hear from you that the tertiary felt really impactful in your game. Because my experience with this mission is it kind of incentivizes you to play defensively. Like losing your warlord loses you that CP every turn. You only get 2 VP a turn for holding a no man's land, regardless of how many you hold. So it's just kind of like pick 3 objectives and castle up around them. And if you are winning by a lot, sure, you'll take your opponent's DZ and get the 4, and then they lose the game, right? My experience on this mission has been pretty much just run at my opponent and roll over them, and then get into their DZ, and at that point they concede. So it's really refreshing to hear that in some of those like longer, more drawn out, scrappy games, like we were saying, playing to round 4, playing to round 5, they can break through your ranks and start like denying you that 9-point swing. So like they get 4 and then they take away your 4 and take away your 1. Like that's something I'm excited to see. Uh, so I like this mission. It's a little more slow paced, but I like that there's breakaway turns that can like flip the points around.
Yeah, it felt really fun and thematic having, when my Salamander's opponent made a play from a backfield objective and I saw how many points that was, I realized that because we had been scrumming in the middle for a while, I was actually winning it. Well, I mean, it was Marine, so yeah, of course I was winning it. As soon as I saw that point swing, I knew I was behind in points, and having a tertiary be that impactful in terms of points off of like 1 or 2 small plays was really fun. And then I realized I had to do something drastic. So it was fun of like that terrifying moment of like if I don't do something right now, I'm gonna lose the game. And I beeline for a home objective and I got it, and it ended up being a close game. So that whole dichotomy of like it's these massive 9-point swings of how am I gonna put units all over the place? How am I gonna get like these 6 different instances of 2 to 4 points? It was just super fun. I think this is an awesome mission. Maybe it's less interesting and less interactive in a mission or in a matchup where both people aren't just playing armies that want to scrum in the midfield and have a lot of like take objectives from your opponent kind of power, and it's instead just an indirect battle or just a shoot off. I feel like it's a lot less interesting. But for 2 A and B tier armies that want to fight in the middle, I think this is one of the best missions. I think it's good fun.
I would agree. I think this mission is really nice. The subtle change. I assume that in the battlefield edges have been switched. That this used to, because I thought we deployed terrain like this for Hammer and Anvil in the past.
Yeah, we did. I think now that we're going off of battlefield edges, because all the ones that have territory marked out are based on
Mhm.
battlefield edges. So now that
Yeah.
that's kind of like the rule, um, I like
Oh
it
yeah,
a
I
little
guess
bit more.
I did diagonal sometimes. Whatever the case, if the player plays terrain at the tournament you're doing is being played like that, where you deploy the player place pretending it's Dawn of War on this one, that's really freaking cool. Because so often, like Lucas was saying, it's just I turn the game into hammer and anvil, I swing up, you swing up, and then we sort of scrum over the middle a little bit, forcing that to not be so well. Like currently on player placed, if we play deploy hammer and anvil style, I get 2 comfortable objectives that are fairly close to each other, and fairly far away from you, and you get the same. So taking that away, really interesting. I agree with Nick that I would have loved to have seen maybe like something small, like maybe the tertiary is worth 3 points instead of 2 if you hold all 3 No Man's Land objectives. Just some additional incentive to get to more than just one of them. Because in my mind, this is I need to hunker down on 2 and then ping you off of the 3rd. But that's like a small gripe. I love that this game is not surrounded by the middle anymore. I played this. This is the game that I played in Natal yesterday. Was on this mission, and even though he holds the center way easier than I do, unlike on what was this Abandoned Sanctuaries, you genuinely can forget about the middle if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
If you can defend your home field and go play some scrums on the corners, you don't need the middle is not everything, which is what it was on Old Sweep and Clear with Direct Assault, which of course has a new incarnation that we'll get to in a sec. But I like that this mission you play everywhere. You can play the center if you want to, but there's absolutely no requirement to do so, and I think that's a great change.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. Well, let's move on then to mission number 23, which is the Scouring. The dreaded Scouring, the bane of many tournament players in the previous mission pack. You all knew it. You all hated it. It was awful. But it's different. Lucas, you want to walk us through how this is different now? Why it might not be so terrible?
I want to have Tyler walk us through it. He loves the Scouring.
You want to do it, Tyler?
Cool.
And I'll just do the next one?
Okay, sure. Fine. That works. All right. So the Scouring, it's received a bunch of changes. The objectives, I should have had the old pack. That's what I should have had. I believe the objectives are all placed exactly the same. Objectives have not changed at all. 1 dead center, and then 4 more. All 5 are in No Man's Land, and the other 4 are a good 12 inches off the center line and 18 away from each other. So there's some reasonable spacing, but it's fairly clumped together just by the nature of it being all No Man's Land. The only thing that has changed here, board-wise, is the deployment zones are radically different. 2 big changes. Number 1, they extend all the way to the edge now, so it's hammer and anvil style. It's no longer the cramped little thing where your orc buggies or admech planes or whatever couldn't fit. Thankfully, that's not the meta anymore, because honestly, that was my favorite part of this mission. And second, they have brought them a little bit closer together as well. Now you're starting 24 inches apart, where previously you were starting 28 inches apart. So this is a real scrum. As far as mission rules, though, that have changed, here's the big one. It is now a take and hold. The Scouring used to be a Domination Mission, which made it the swingiest thing ever. I will complain at length about the Scouring in a minute, but I'm going to talk for a moment about what it is now, though. Take and hold now, and then we have a new thing. Our tertiaries around the action Ospec Scan, which is not confusing at all. There's nothing else in the game that's called anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ospec Scan is an action. 1 unit from your army can start to perform this action at the end of your movement phase if they're within a range of an objective marker that has not yet been scanned. They can start the action while there are enemy units in range of the same objective. They cannot start it if there's enemy units on the objective. The action is completed at the start of your next command phase or the end of the battle, whatever happens first, provided the unit attempting it is still in range of the same objective marker. If the action is successfully completed, that objective marker has been scanned, and at the end of the battle, you get 3 points for every objective that has been scanned. Okay, this is much better than it was. Let's talk about why the old one was terrible, and then we can explain why the new one is not. So, I have a personal vendetta against the Scouring. I went to 2 super majors last year, SoCal and BAO, and in those 12 games I played, I lost 2, both of them on the Scouring. Both of them into functionally the same army, as far as I can tell, which is a whole bunch of fairly durable stuff that runs at you full force and also a little bit of chaff. Nick, do you have something to interject?
Yeah, didn't you also lose at LVO on the Scouring?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. SoCal and the Scout and LVO.
Oh, okay.
He said BAO. He meant
You
LVO.
said BAO, my bad.
There was no BAO last year.
Okay.
My apologies.
He was the only person there, and he still lost on it.
Yeah, it's that bad. Anyway, you know what Brad was saying. If you can't get your points while playing on your own, how are you gonna get any points playing into an opponent? Anyway, so starting 28 inches away, in theory, makes me think that this like was intentionally there to prevent rush armies from just dominating. So we'll see how that ends up changing things. But it didn't for me because the scouring is so swingy. Basically, there are two versions of scouring games. There is one version where one person runs the opponent over and wins 97-12. This happened all the time when you play the scouring. And the second one was we have an actual very close, very scrappy game where one person wins like 39-37. I literally have, is it up here? I think it's on my wall behind. Yeah, I have a game I played into Jason Bird. It was one of my favorite games that I ever played. I beat him 45-39 on the scouring. Primary wise, I scored a 15, which were all on turn 5 because I went second. I scored 0 primary turns 2 through 4. This mission was ridiculous. He also scored 15 points of primary. So it's very low scoring. We can discuss how annoying it is in other ways, but the worst thing about this mission was that it basically meant either someone gets a giant score or no one gets a giant score. And that just ruined battle point tournaments. Mm-hmm. Battle point tournaments are hopefully on the decline, it seems like, at the very least pairings, but it should really also be placings. Not the point.
Agreed.
But
thumbs up.
Yeah, we can have another an entire episode talking about why battle points are terrible. But in battle point pairing, oh my gosh, I played a close game on the scouring. I'm immediately out of the running to win the event. If there's going to be multiple undefeated, or whatever placing I drop like a rock in the placings. Whereas if I get an easy matchup on that one, I get my 97, I move on. Really didn't like that. So
have you played the new one?
I have not played the new one yet, mostly out of fear, frankly. But the big change is here to mitigate that. Number one, take and hold instead of domination means that primary should be way easier. Still going to favor a lot going second, but it's like very possible now. Strategic scan being for everyone means that everyone can inch out a little bit more primary. It should be pretty easy to get 6 on strategic scan, and then whoever goes second will get at least 9. And if you can do more than that, cool. But like, it may be easier said than done. And then the big fat DZs should result in some better ways to sit back and hide. Maybe I don't know. What do you guys think? You guys have played this mission, so tell me.
This is the least sit back and hidey of all the missions because not a single one of them is like even on the edge of your deployment zone. This feels like the mission that is the most, favored.
Point of clarification, Lucas. The objective is 9 inches back and it extends 3.5 inches. So the 2 backfield objectives are now half-inch towed into your DZ. Just something that people should know about.
Oh, yeah, because there's the width of the objective token itself. Yeah, okay. So, like, there's 2 that are just barely in your zone. In general, I feel like this is going to favor pressure armies that want to zerg the opponent. As someone who plays one of those, I salivate when I start seeing this mission, especially against someone who wants to play a cagier or, more laid-back game. And I could just zerg the center and be like, okay, I take all your points now. I don't think that's super healthy. I like having one objective in the DZ. I feel like it's more fair, but it's not the end of the world. The biggest change, in my opinion, of why this is better, I mean, obviously the fact that it promoted very swingy points in a battle point system, like Tyler mentioned, was really toxic. But also hold 2, hold 3, which is a part of that. That was the dumbest part of this mission before, was that you either got basically a 12 or you got a 0. There was no in between, and it was just stupid. And now that's fixed. I feel like this mission is, and we have a question about this, so we'll talk about it at the end. But just to give a little spoiler, I do feel like this mission is fixed. It's maybe not the best mission. It's probably not the best mission in the packet, but I feel like it's a legit option. Like, I'm not going to assume the TO is trolling when he puts this in a tournament, right? Whereas, before it was everyone kind of laughed and ha-ha, and then, oh wait, are you serious? When we had to play this mission at a tournament in the last packet. Where like it was a troll pick, like you did it for fun.
Man, now what kind of TO would do that?
Tanner
Herbert,
and then Tanner, both tournaments he picked missions for. Anyway, but yeah, I do feel like this mission is balanced now. I feel like it's fun, especially in like a 5-round plus event. where there's more variety of missions, I probably wouldn't play this at RTT. But like in a GT or a major, I feel like this is a pretty safe mission. It definitely favors a certain archetype, but I don't think it's the end of the world.
I played this one at the GT. It was my one loss actually into Custodes, but it was still like a 94 to 76 point game. So he scored high. I also scored pretty high. The hold 1, hold 2, definitely way better. I guess my one little gripe with this mission is because how close the objectives are, you're like never playing in the backfield. The entire game is played in this small little rectangle in the middle, which can be exciting, but there is like a ton of space of the game that is like a ton of space of the board that is irrelevant to the game. As far as other center objective missions go, like Abandoned Sanctuaries, I feel like Abandoned Sanctuaries, I mean, the tertiary on that one is hold the middle, right? Fight over the middle. This is another center objective one, but there's no additional points for holding the middle. You definitely still want to take the middle if you can, because like you're probably bringing Stranglehold, right? Also, like if you hold your 2 close to your DZ and the one in the middle, you're threatening a 12. So there was some scraps over the middle, but in the game I played, the biggest fights were on the flanks. Because the flank objectives are where people are trying to do strategic scans. So you're trying to like attack their scan targets. You're trying to clear it because then if you live, now you hone that flank and now you can scan that objective. So it's kind of more like minimal engagement in the center, which is nice. So even though it's a center objective mission, I feel like it doesn't reward death ball armies quite as much. Strategic scan's also pretty cool. I ended up getting 9 on it in the game that I played. Like I took like the 2 in my backside pretty quick, and then I attacked a flank and took the flank, and then got 3 more at the end of the game. And even though my opponent went second, like they only got 6. It rewards you for going second because you can do it at the end of the game and complete it at the end of the game. But it's only like a 3-point swing, so I think it's a fairly balanced mission. You're going to see like good scores from either players, but you're going to have to work hard to get like a high score, and it's going to be really hard to get like a 0 on this one. Like the
Part of that I feel is the tertiary. I feel like the tertiary for this mission is going to be like 3 on the low end, 6, 9 on the high end, and almost everyone's going to get 6 or 9. Which, you know, giggity. But also I feel like that's just fun. A lot of the other tertiaries are a lot more swingy than that. I think this is a good mission.
It's good.
All right.
Yeah, before we jump on, I would I would say the recommended secondary of the mission for this one, if you're looking to try something new, I would look into Behind Enemy Lines. The entire game is going to be scrummed right there, and if your opponent is going to try to dedicate screening, obviously like infiltrators or something, don't. But I mean, they had infiltrators, so you won the game anyway. But
true.
But if you're seeing that your opponent is going to have to try to come play for the scrum, consider Behind Enemy Lines instead of Strangle. It can be really hard to knock some people down while getting onto a third objective in this mission from time to time, if you're not bringing, you know, a real hard-hitting melee force. So yeah, consider that. I haven't done it yet, but I think this is a really good player place terrain mission, because with the right pieces of terrain, you can actually like be on your home field, no man's land objectives pretty comfortably. And I think that makes the mission a lot more interesting instead of having to go, because that was the problem, right? You were 2 inches further back, so you had to like get out and over some distance. So I like it. We'll see what happens.
One other small thing too, yeah. I will say for action-based secondaries, R&D and the teleport homers are also really good, because teleport homers, there's so much of your opponent's DZ you can hop back into that they aren't going to be able to screen out. And I think banners is a little bit of a trap because of how close the objectives are. Like,
oh yeah, don't take banners. I mean, unless you're Lukas. Lukas always takes banners.
Yeah, so
yeah,
be careful if you take banners. You're probably going to get torn down.
Banners is bad now in the packet in general.
Yeah.
Banners is just not a very good secondary.
Yeah, it has gone from the like thing that almost everyone was taking all the time to take it on retrieval, I guess. Yeah. Anyway. So we'll move on from the scouring then, moving on to mission number 31. Oh, wait, actually, I think there was something in here that I wanted to check in the chat that I thought was worth mentioning. Sam over here describes this as a go second and charge your opponent when they take the middle first. And I think that's a reasonably fair assessment of things you might want to try to do on this mission. This is one of those missions where it really helps to have a very fast moving chaff unit that you can throw out onto that middle objective if you go first. Whoever has to commit first here is going to have a bad time, but if you have, in my case, Spikes or Sky Slashers, and Lucas's case, Storm Boys, and Nick's case, Scarabs, having something that fills that role is going to be really helpful. So don't commit too early. All right, moving on to 31. This is by far the most complicated mission, and I'm excited to talk about it because it's really cool looking. This is Tide of Conviction, and I did 2 in a row, so Lucas, how about you break down this nonsense for us?
Yeah, I love this mission. This mission is really fun. So, if you're on a podcast, I'm sorry. This is gonna make no sense at all. I'm not even gonna try to tailor how I'm explaining this to you guys. I'm just gonna assume you're looking at the screen right now. So, there's one objective in your DZ, kind of at the front of it, and then there's one a little bit forward from that and to the left, and then one a little bit forward from your DZ objective and then far to the right. So it's basically you have a very like long angle triangle set of objectives on your side of the field, and your opponent has that mirrored on the other side. This is a domination mission, so hold 2, hold 3. And the mission rules, oh, I didn't even realize that was a thing. The mission rules very rarely come into effect. You only get your CP if you hold your backfield objective, which 9 times out of 10 you will. The tertiary is 2 points if you take a objective that's on your opponent's side of the board, and I think it's 4 if you control the other side. Oh, nope, that's wrong. So you control an objective on your opponent's side, you get 2 points. And then at the end of the game, you get another whole big batch of points if you control objectives on your opponent's side. So yet another mission that really emphasizes going second. This is one mission, now that I say that Banners is horrible, this is one mission where Banners is okay. It's still not amazing. I think Rod is better, given that it's Dawn of War. Really hard to screen out your backfield with Dawn of War, especially with where the objectives are in this mission. Regardless, I think it's really fun. It's the only, I guess there's only 2 hold 2, hold 3 missions now in the packet. This and Data Scry Salvage. I feel like this one's the better one. It's the one where it's easier to get a 4 and sometimes an 8. Data Scry Salvage, it feels like there's many times you're not even getting an 8 and often not getting a 4. So this is one where I feel like the game is a lot closer, and it's also just a nice little trickle feed of tertiaries, where if you don't go out and get it, you're missing out on like 10 plus points. And if you do go get it, you're interacting with your opponent and it starts fights that way. It looks like the objectives are far apart. They're not. They're at between the size of the token itself and then the 3-inch radius and the size of your base if you're towed on. You can get from any one of these objectives to any other one except for like the one that's in the top left to the one that's in the bottom right. Anything is basically within striking distance of any other, and it's only just their orientation, which makes it just a big whirlwind of stuff going on. I like this mission. I think it's really fun. It's one where a lot of the very baked in secondaries like Stranglehold, basically just Stranglehold, isn't the obvious pick. I mean, Stranglehold is still very good here, but you have to go and get to your opponent in order to score Stranglehold. It's also one where player place terrain makes a big difference because the objectives are 6 inches off of the midfield line. So dropping some like a crate in the midfield or something like that could mess with your opponent a little bit. But also there's a pretty safe way for them to just put a building on the objective so that they can be safe on it. I don't know. I think it's just a really fun mission. I feel like it promotes close games. I feel like it promotes really interactive play. Yeah, what do you guys think? I played this a couple times. Every time I've played it, the game's been pretty close and very fun all the way through.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, you want to talk, go ahead, Tyler.
I'm a huge fan. A couple of like hard number things on this. Though your home field objective and the closest objective to it are 10.8 inches apart, which means that when you pull off the 7 inches from the 2 neoprenes, there's a 3.8 inch gap that you have to span to hold both objectives. And you can, of course, hold 2 objectives with 1 unit, just not 1 model. So that's the closest any 2 objectives are anywhere in the game. And that is like really disorienting to see at first. I really like that this mission has asymmetry to it, that you have basically a close flank and a far flank, and they are both entirely playable. If you are a more hold the middle army, you can totally go for that. The second closest objectives, the 2 midfield ones that are sort of on the left if you're on the bottom and the right if you're on the top, those are, 16 inches away? 16.9. So they're just under 10 inches apart is it from string to string. So holding those 2 collectively with a squad of Terminators or, 3 dudes on 50s 2, right? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 10 is super feasible. So you can play the really scrummy play for the middle game, or you can totally play the outskirts here, hold down on your right flank really firmly, knock things off of your closer flank, and then go harass your opponent's far flank. Really interesting play. I think the asymmetry of it is a ton of fun. And I like that slight addition of that you can't fully abandon your backfield objective when doing that. That it's a CP thing. The one where you lose a point. The one where you lose a point is for losing your backfield is at the end of your turn, so that's not going to come up very often. But this one will come up a lot more because if it's at the end of your turn, it'll be at the start of their command phase. So knocking your opponent off their backfield is a bigger deal on this one, I think, than it is on the other one. Yes, there's a lot of fun stuff here. Recommended objective for this one to look into would probably be teleport homers. If you have something that can do teleport homers, it's a really great mission for it because you want to be throwing things into that within 12 area to get tertiary points anyway. And because it is a Dawn of War that is pretty midfield focused, those back corners are usually pretty empty. And might be worth looking into.
Yeah.
You got thoughts on this one, Nick?
Yeah, I love this mission. Just for like a lot of the same reasons you guys have said, like the asymmetry, the ability to like attack the middle or attack the flanks. Another thing I really like about it is that it's a risky stranglehold mission. Like if you're taking stranglehold, it does play into the tertiary of going to your opponent's side of the board and getting that too. But you're exposing yourself. You're getting into their DZ basically, like right into their castle. I also think it's a mission that it really rewards going second, and because of that, if you're going first, you're kind of in the driver's seat. Like you kind of have to at some point hit your opponent hard, because if you just sit back all game and treat this like a defensive mission, like retrieval or recover the relics, your opponent's going to turn 5 walk onto your objectives and take them and get like 4 to 8 points. So I really like that you can't just sit back all game, but you could you could sit back the first 3 turns and then make like a mad rush turn 4 or 5. Or if you're someone like Orcs, you could make a mad rush early in the game and try to bash your opponent. Another thing too that I was going to say, this is the mission I played at the finals for the RTT against Salamanders, Firstborn Salamanders. So I tried a bit of an interesting thing where I tried to pin him into his DZ for the first few turns, which worked out pretty well because I was able to get like the 2 for holding the middle, or for holding one of his side missions or mission objectives. And he took Stranglehold, so I was basically able to just keep him from scoring Stranglehold for a little bit. I have a bit of an advantage here. Necrons have secondary called Purge the Vermin, which is the exact same thing as Herd the Prey. So normally I'd take Stranglehold, but on this mission I was just able to be like, "Oh, Purge the Vermin. I'll just keep you in your DZ for a little bit, and then come bash you late game and score that 8." So yeah, good mission though. I like that it's risky.
Cool beans.
Let's move on.
Shall we move on?
Yep.
Yeah. Coming up next is Death and Zeal. Naj, you want to walk us through
Yes.
what Death and Zeal is all about?
I would love to. I love this mission. This is previously known as Sweep and Clear, which was a pretty god-awful mission. It is the same Sweep and Clear deployment, same deployment as Conversion earlier. So the corners where you're really close to each other, 1 center objective, and the 4 objectives in either table quarter. And this one, sticky objectives. So sticky objectives if you're OBSEC. So it's cool. It's useful sometimes. It is a hold 1, hold 2, hold more mission. And the tertiary, though, is like the biggest glow up, most fun thing about this mission, in my opinion. You get 2 victory points at the end of your turn if you satisfy one of the following conditions, or 3 if you satisfy both. So the first condition is if you control an objective marker that you did not control at the start of your turn, 2 points. There's another thing where it's like if you control all, you get 2 points, so it prevents someone who took over the whole board from not getting tertiary. And the second one that gets you 2 points is destroying at least 1 enemy unit that was in range of objective marker at the start of your turn. Now, here's what usually happens. There's an opponent on an objective that you don't have. You go to that objective, you kill that unit, take the objective, you satisfy both conditions, you get 3. So it's a lot of back and forth trading with each other all over the place. And it turns into like a very fast-paced, very bloody, kind of like all over the place game. Yeah. Have any of you guys played this one yet?
I have not, so I'll take a step back.
I also have not, and I have a lot to say for Prios and not a lot to say for this one, so go
Yeah.
for it, Nick.
I'll talk about this one.
Wax poetic.
Yeah, I've played this one. I think I played this one last night into Sisters, right? Yeah, I played this one last night into Sisters. I also played this one in round 5 of the GT I went to a few weeks ago into Dark Eldar. And that's actually the game that made me realize this was like the biggest change from Sweep and Clear. So Sweep and Clear, the old mission secondary was I mean it's direct assault, which is like what the tertiary is called now. But that was, hey, hold the middle at the end of your turn, 3 VP, or hold the middle in your opponent's 5. But basically it's, can you hold the middle, get free 15. And if your opponent couldn't hold the middle, they couldn't deny that 15. They also couldn't clear that objective, so they had to attack the flanks, but they were like, down 15 usually. And a lot of armies paired this with like other secondaries that are good at holding the middle, like Oath of the Moment, like Oath plus direct assault, like crazy good. I basically played this the same way when I played into Dark Eldar. My army deathballed towards the middle. She threw like a bunch in the middle. I talked about this a little bit, so I won't go too in detail. She threw a bunch of stuff in the middle. I countered with throwing my whole army in the middle, cleared out the middle, and then she decided, cool, I'm not going to be able to clear that. And she just started attacking the sides with her super fast, super kill unit. And that was at that point I realized, oh, I'm going to lose this game if I don't like divert resources to the sides. Like I can't just sit in the middle and win. So I had to like leave enough behind in the middle that it was like hard enough for her to clear, and then split my forces up. But the nice thing about that is like I could have like sent my death ball over to one flank, but not the other flank, So I had to decide how am I splitting my forces up to like take the sides, and I ended up picking making the correct decision and clearing the sides. But there was like a turn 2, turn 3, some pretty scary decision making going on there on my end. Where if I'd like sent one too little unit over here, maybe I didn't kill the side, and then she fights me back and kills me. Her units are all hyper lethal. And it was super cool is even though I held the middle, like I was boxing her out of the middle, she was just running over to the sides, clearing a unit of mine off the side, gets her 3 tertiary. Like I can't deny the tertiary on this mission, and it's still super interactive, super fast paced, like I said. And there's a good strategy for armies that cannot hold the middle on this mission, which is fantastic.
Yeah, like I said, I haven't played this one yet, but on paper it seems fantastic in that way. It lets you play all over. It forces you to play all over, right? So it's a centralized mission where you can't play centralized, kind of, which is super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that the tertiary is broken down. You can get 2 out of 3 for just doing one or the other. If you have quick stuff that can get places, cool, have points. If you have meaningful ways to kill your opponent's MSU, cool, have points. You kind of get to play this however you want. It kind of feels like several viable strategies, and that's an A+ mission in my mind.
Yeah. Well, it's important to note you have to kill your opponent's MSU on an objective marker. If you just kill it out in the open, you don't get the points.
Yes, of course. Sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
A lot of scrapping over objectives.
Sounds good. Well,
Prios.
let's talk about prios. By prios, of course, we mean secure missing artifacts objective, not objective, mission number 33. Lucas, you're so excited about it. Why don't you tell us how it works?
Sure. So, fundamentally, the whole moving objectives, the order of moving objectives hasn't changed with this mission. It's still a hold 1, hold 2. 2 important changes here. The first one is the tertiary was the old secondary, where you basically pick an objective and you get 3 points for holding it. The important change is that your opponent picks the objective, and it has to be in your table side. So 9 times out of 10, that's going to be the objective that's in no man's land, but that's in your table half, is basically how that works. And the other important change is no, that was it, wasn't it? Yeah, the ramification of that change is that who moves the first objective really matters because you have a choice. So like if you're the attacker and you're moving the first objective, you have a critical decision. It's, do I want to make my prio safer because it's 3 points a turn? So it's a lot of points over the course of the game. Do I want to make my prio safer or do I want to make theirs more dangerous? And weighing up the matchup, weighing up the tools that are in your army, and then making that decision is one of the most fun parts of this mission, and I don't know about you guys, I think this is an amazing mission. I think that Pryos was already a pretty good mission. It was just a little bit brain dead of sometimes you got to turn 2 and you're like, "Oh, I won." Um, but now it's especially cool because you have this awesome decision of I've played games I've played 2 games in a town on this mission, and both of them I got to move the first objective. Sorry. No, one of them I got to move first, and the other one he got to move first. But we played it both ways, where basically we both made our objectives safer, and then we played another rendition where we both made our objectives more exposed. And it's really fun to kind of weigh that dichotomy of, do I want safe points or do I want my opponent to not have safe points? Um, and in general, I feel like actually that doesn't super matter. So yeah, long and short of it is this mission is freaking awesome. I love this mission. It's a great stranglehold mission. It's a pretty decent rod mission. Uh, so just kind of run of the mill secondaries, unfortunately, which is a little boring. But in terms of the playing for primary points and playing for tertiary points, this is one of the more interesting ones in my opinion. I'm just looking through. I don't think there's anything else.
Lucas, I think you jumped a couple steps down the game theory ladder there,
Sure.
which Nick and I are definitely on the same page. Could you explain a little bit of what you mean on how the objectives get moved? You were talking about how you're just moving your opponent's priority objective, but like, how do we get there?
Okay, yeah. So if you're looking, I'm imagining you're looking at the screen here. There's 2 on the left labeled A, and there's 2 on the right labeled B. You're moving 1A and 1B. If you're the attacker, you get to move an objective first. So let's imagine you're the attacker, and you get to move an objective first. The most important thing, this was true in the previous packet, and it's true in this packet too, is to move a midfield objective. Which one is more important is up to you, because you can't see my cursor, which is a serious shame. So the A objective that's in the upper left, imagine your player blue, and the A objective that's in the upper left is the one that's almost certainly going to be a priority, and the B objective in the lower right is almost certainly going to be your opponent's priority, because you get to pick your opponents and they get to pick yours. So you have a very important choice if you're moving the first objective. Do I want to make that upper left A objective safer for me? Or do I want to make the lower B objective more dangerous for my opponent to hold? Because each one of those is going to be a 3-point swing over the course of, the game, and then it's going to be 15 points in total. 3 points a turn, rather. So that's the choice. And even if you aren't the attacker, your opponent is faced with the same decision, right? Do they make the lower right hand B objective safer, or do they make the upper left hand A objective more dangerous? So that's pretty interesting. What happens with your home field objective doesn't really matter. So if you take anything away from hearing me ramble about this mission, is don't move your home field objective until the very end. Just move a midfield objective, and then that kind of game theory of do I want to make it safer or more dangerous is pretty interesting to me. I've had games where I've felt really disadvantaged just on list construction, where I'm like, I'm going to make your priority objective more dangerous, so that there's more opportunity for you to lose points because I'm already disadvantaged here. And then other games where I felt very comfortable and I just said, I want to get my 15 on the tertiary. I'm just moving my safe objective, and we're just going to play a normal game, and you're going to have to do something drastic to win this. So it's kind of fun. Do you guys have any thoughts on this? This is one of my favorite missions. I don't think it's particularly flashy or amazing, but it's just like a solid mission that now is not brain dead easy.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I think is worth bringing up about this is how wacky the interaction is with player placed terrain. The current FLG rules are you move objectives and then you place terrain. Other places are doing that differently, and obviously if you're not playing with player placed terrain, the terrain is being put down before the objectives. So there's a real question in what you mean when you say safer or more dangerous when considering where terrain is going to end up. So like something that I find really interesting is that if, let's say, I choose to make my opponent's objective more challenging, I know that I am no, it's got to go the other way around. Oh man, okay. So this is super specific because there's so many levels to this. The other thing is with player placed terrain is there is a center objective, which means that if you're playing on a table with a center piece of terrain, the attacker just gets to move that piece of terrain along the hammer and anvil line, and the defender moves the piece of terrain along the midfield line, and then the attacker actually gets to put down the first piece. So where exactly you want to pull that objective, if you pull it toward the center of the table and there is a centerpiece, your opponent's going to get to move that first. They can either pull it up and really block off access to their own objective, or they can pull it down and you get to throw a piece that might get to mess with both of their objectives. They'll be, I guess they'll still be 9 inches back from the center. That's not a thing. Okay, whatever the case, there's a lot of levels of thought that you have to consider when trying to figure out what less safe ends up actually meaning in the context of your shooting versus combat armies.
Yeah.
Anything to add for this mission, Nick?
No, I agree with you. This mission used to be brain dead easy. You made one objective really safe, and then you're like, that's my prio, give me 15 points. And I like it now that if you decide to make your opponents exposed, and they can go like right back at you, and now you guys are like actually fighting over this tertiary points. Yeah, it's a fun mission. Player play strain adds a humongous additional levels to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thinking going on before you even start deploying your armies on this mission. So watch out.
Cool. All right, so there are the 9 missions. I want to run, just to get a feel of the overall thoughts on the pack, I want to run through all 9 and just give each one a tier level real quick. Just don't think too hard about it. Just to get a feel for the pack. And I'm going to give them, tell me if you disagree, based on what we said. I think Retrieval is an A-tier mission, or Recover the Relics.
I agree.
Yep.
Tear Down on their icons, probably also A-tier.
A or B.
Bombs, A or B. Data Salvage is probably like a B-tier mission.
I think it's a B.
I think it's a B, yeah.
Abandoned Sanctuaries is probably like B-, C+ kind of tier.
I think it's B.
B tier? Okay.
Yep.
Conversion... Yeah, Conversion is an A+ tier mission, maybe even an S tier mission.
Yeah, I think it's A+.
Great. The Scouring is a B tier mission.
Yep.
Tide of Conviction, I think, is an A+, S- tier mission.
Yep.
Death and Zeal is an S tier mission.
Yep.
And Secure Missing Artifacts is an S tier mission.
Yeah.
This pack is fantastic.
It's lit. The worst mission is like B tier.
Nick and I think that there is a C tier mission. You don't. We'll see what you think after you've played it.
I think the worst 2 are those 2 right there. Abandoned Sanctuaries. Maybe like Abandoned Sanctuaries and Vital. Yeah, I think those are the 2 worst.
Yeah. They're the most polarizing.
They're the most polarizing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the Scouring is still significantly worse than Data Scry Salvage, but that's fine.
That's probably true.
Whatever the case, it's a really good pack now.
Yep.
Whatever you're playing, it's going to be enjoyable. The secondaries are... Billy says I'm going to enjoy the mission picks for the RTT he's running tomorrow. Oh, Billy, I'm scared. Okay, so whatever the case, overall we'd say it's a really good pack. Do you guys have other overall comments before we jump into covering a couple of questions and whatnots?
It's a shame the meta is so god awful right now with because otherwise I'd be loving this pack. As it is, I have to play against Fleet Ebola every couple weeks or every couple days. So sad days.
It is so much better than the last one. I love that most of the tertiaries encourage you to go out and interact with your opponent, or at least expose yourself in some way, take some risk. That's like my favorite part about 40K, is forcing people to take some risk, because that's where like the nitty gritty comes down to. That's where the game's actually being played.
All right, we've already run an hour and a half. Should we quickly go through questions and then talk about lists?
Yeah, well, we got two things I think we can talk to. Yeah. So let's do a check-in on where we're at list-wise right now, and then jump into listener questions at the very end. Naj, you are of course the one with the podcast episode named after you that Eula Sanders is so excited to hear about. So could you talk a little bit about the current status of your Necron list that you just won a tournament with?
Yeah.
Like, just basically, let's skip all the games because they were RTT games. You won an RTT. Is this list any different than it was last time?
Nope, it was week apart, so I decided let's play some more games, get some more data.
Cool. What are your big takeaways? Were you thinking about mutating the list? What's the future looking like for Necrons?
Yeah, there's some stuff I'm still looking at. There's like a core to the list that's pretty solid, like the King, the idea of like 10 score packs, the idea of like 8-ish wraiths, the Technomancer, and the Flayed ones. Like none of that's really changing. It's just kind of like the extra squad of wraiths, extra squad of score packs, the heavy destroyers, the Bard, the Hexmark. Those are all like a little situationally good, but in like this this past weekend. They all proved to be useful in their games. I played Hexmark into GSC and absolutely messed up his deep strike phase. Game 2.
Wonderful. I hate it.
Yeah, I played Locusts into Greater Demons, which were great. Some games they're worthless. Other games they win into these big dumb tanky monsters. Super helpful. And then in the last game, the Barge just kind of helped me hold down a flank into Marines. So all these things that I've considered cutting, proved to pull their weight in certain games. So I'm gonna keep an eye on it. But one thing I was talking to Lukas about today, this morning, was I would like a little bit more of a range punch, just to because my army's fast, but it's some games I kind of expose myself, get shot, and then connect with them. I would like to maybe, discourage them from just standing a certain amount of way, be able to shoot them if they're out in the open. So I thought about maybe trying to bring in 5 Locust Destroyers, cutting 4 Scorpex and the Hexmark and this Cryptic Arcana I have that gives Wraiths +1 attack. But I'll think about that. They're very expensive. They're not that tanky for their points. But if I keep playing, I haven't, I've lost 1 game, so I'm not going to change the list until I start losing more games. But I'm looking at that. Locust Destroyers, maybe bringing them in.
Very cool. Yeah, I think that's about what I wanted to hear about that. Lukas, what's going on in Orc World right now? How is it being an Orc player?
I'm learning a bunch of new skills. My new list has no Obsec, so
losing? That's a new one for you, I know.
I'm losing a lot of games right now. It's true. This is the first list where I don't have a ton of units and I have no Obsec whatsoever. So it's a new experience just being completely smashed on the scoreboard, and I'm having to play a lot more ballsy and take a lot more risks for very little reason because of that. Which is a big bummer. I lost against Eldar, lost against Salamanders, I lost a lot against Tau, where I'm just, little crappy units all over the place are getting my opponent a ton of points, and because I only have 6 to 9 activations throughout my whole army and it's all in melee, I just can't kill those things. That being said, the list is 12 pigs, 15 meganobs, 3 battle wagons, gas, and some storm boys for scoring and stuff like that. So the list absolutely hits like a freight train, and if you try to fight it in the midfield, I will demolish you. I think even I've yet to play it, so I shouldn't actually say that. But I think this list can give if the Custodes player rushes the midfield and just tries to endure, I think this list can give it a serious run for its money, because everything in my army is AP 3/3 damage with 4 attacks where he only hits exploding 6. Everything just slaps in melee. But it's not flexible at all. There's no shooting. There's no dynamics to it. It's just all punch. And so if your opponent can ride out the wave / score enough points anyway, it just doesn't matter. So yeah, orcs aren't feeling very good right now, but against some of the other A and B tier armies, they feel okay. But against the S tier, they just really have no hope at all. And I'm not even gonna bother teching for them, honestly.
Gotcha. All right. Well, that's a little depressing to hear, but looking forward to hopefully getting some changes. Maybe in the balance slate we get a couple things to buff orcs. I think Art of War ranked orcs as the
it was the top of B tier. I think they belong top of B or bottom. I think they honestly belong bottom of A, but the thing is they have no game into S tier armies at all, which other A tier armies might. So
I think they are in the BIFPOD terminology. They're top of pack. Maybe they're pack plus, but I don't know. I think that you are putting more into that army than that army is putting into you by a pretty wide margin. So we'll see how that goes for you. Over in Bug World, I was feeling real optimistic last week. I was like, this is great. We're doing good. I beat a very bad Tau player and have played close games into Custodes. And then I beat an okay Tau player. And then, no, it's been bad. The list is still basically the same. It's double Hive Guard and Twisted Helix. It does what it says on the tin really effectively, and on the right missions with player place terrain, it hits really hard. It's kind of cancerous, honestly, at times, because Hive Guard is stupid.
Yes.
But I just got beat so hard by Tau yesterday. We'll see what happens at this RTT tomorrow. But New Nids Codex is only a couple of weeks away. I am freaking thrilled. Everything's going to be new and different and exciting, so I'm trying to focus mostly on hobby projects right now, and I'll maybe we'll see what happens in a couple weeks. If there's no Nids decks by early April, I might be taking Tau to a major. We'll see. But the actual news that's super exciting, is that if you want to actually come see us in person and play some games, we just got a ton of new tournaments announced. There is a wild couple of months coming up with the GW events. I believe we'll be at GW Seattle, all three of us.
Oh yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, well, NOJ and I definitely will be. Hopefully, we'll have Lukas there as well. GW events are supposedly some of the best in the world. All the Art of War guys say it. All the guys who have been there say that frontline events just don't cut it by comparison, which, I mean, GW has a little bit more money to throw at these things. I can understand how that might end up being the case. Should be a ton of fun, but we'll be there. We'll all be at BAO, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. We'll all be at BAO. The pre-charity hammer major that Colin is trying to make happen. If that goes awful, I'll be there, so be excited about that. It's going to be a crazy couple of months. It's going to be a lot of tournaments. And if you want to check in and see us play before then, you're going to want to join the membership tier on YouTube. It's $10 a month. You're getting access to a ton of battle reports. We're putting out like 3 or 4 a week right now. They are coming rapid fire. A bunch of them are going to be featuring us in 2 weeks' time. You'll also get access to part 2s of Chasing the Narrative and Fight Club, which is everyone's favorite thing to talk about. It's they go a little further off the rails. It's a ton of fun. Anthony and Innes start yelling at each other. I get to edit it. It's a ton of fun.
We should do that.
Be excited about that. Pardon?
We should do that. We should all yell at each other.
We should all yell at each other. Okay, maybe we'll see about that. If people, if you have ideas for things you'd like to see us do for members, go ahead and let us know. Also, make sure that you're interested in supporting us on Patreon. That Patreon fee gives you access to the best Discord in 40K, where you can ask us questions like the ones we're about to answer real quick. Just a couple of them. We'll do Discord first and then go to YouTube.
Really quick, Tyler, because we just talked about tournaments. Ulyss is asking where the Sunday RTT is at.
Oh yeah, Billy's already got it. Ulyss is in the area, yeah. So you should come. It's going to be at Gamescape North. Get in touch with Billy. You two can hopefully find each other.
Well, that's anyway. Gamescape.
It's a Gamescape, dude.
What the heck?
Okay. I know, right? It's great. The last time there was a tournament at Gamescape that I know of, we both attended, and I brought 1,500 points of Tau and 250 points of Lucas's Assault Marines because yeah. But anyway, I was like 12. Moving on. So we'll do the Discord questions first, and then we'll tackle these YouTube questions. In the Discord, Innes asks, how much do you miss Sweep and Clear? Personally, I think that only having 2 new identical missions misses out on the soul of the mission, and there could easily be 4 or 5 more. Innes is trolling me because he knows how much I hate Sweep and Clear. I love the new versions of Sweep and Clear. I think they're way better. I think the deployment zone still sucks, but the missions are way better than it used to be, so I don't entirely hate it. And honestly, abusing it now that I have stuff that wants to charge turn 1, like the fact that my Steelers go 24 in charge, which is functionally the table on Sweep and Clear, is kind of silly. So those are my thoughts. Do any of y'all miss Sweep and Clear?
No. The old one was cool. The old one was fine. The new ones are so much better. They're great.
Yeah. All right. Discord, on to Mish asks a couple of questions. We're going to tackle a few of them. Number 1, is missionary or secondary design a possibility for design balance? I.e., we used to do this in the ITC a lot when, like, whenever a faction got too strong, suddenly a secondary came out that was good against it. This was things like Gangbusters coming out to counter Bulgrin, or Pick Your Poison coming out to counter Eldar. That was a very contrived secondary. What do you guys think about this as being a mechanic to try to balance some of these factions?
I don't personally like it. I feel like it gets around laziness of having the faction be well designed and balanced in the first place and fun to play against. It's also just another layer of, like, the army isn't balanced and now the secondaries are all whack. I'd rather the secondaries be pretty straightforward. I don't have any reasoning for that other than that I like it that way. It makes more sense. It's simpler.
I agree. I think it also sticks around too long. Like, Pick Your Poison was still very viable, like, well after Eldar were good, and it just led to some weird interactions. I would just rather there are enough knobs and dials to turn in data sheets and abilities and points. Don't mess with the missions.
Yep.
All right. You think we'll ever see large or quote unquote mainstream tournaments doing their own mission packs instead of playing out of the book? God, I hope not.
I hope not.
I don't think so. I think GW's done a really good job with this one. I think people are going to try it. I don't think a lot of people are going to sign up for a tournament that uses different missions because they're so used to playing the other ones. I personally wouldn't, like, unless it was ran by, like, a close friend doing something goofy. I don't know, but I wouldn't take it that seriously.
I certainly wouldn't travel any substantial distance
Yeah.
for such an event. Like if it was in San Rafael, if it was in the city even, like maybe, but not a fan. Everyone playing the same game, even though our terrain is not there yet, but this is so much more the same than it used to be, is the best thing about 9th edition in my mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Okay, moving on. Trying to move quickly. I don't want to answer that question. We don't know anything about StarCraft. Alex asks, "Is the scouring fixed?"
Yeah.
Seems like it.
Still not an amazing. It's still not like the best balanced mission, but it's better.
It's no longer the worst
Substantially
mission
better.
in the pack,
Yeah.
and it's playable for sure.
Yeah.
Like I love the toe in for especially with player plays. So we'll see, but I think it's playable. If your TO runs the scouring, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll jump into the YouTubes now and go up backwards. Euless wants to come to a tournament. That'll be fun. Does Nick have lists, stream vids with the Necron list? I don't think y'all streamed the last two. You were on stream the last two tournaments?
No, they didn't have any streams, sadly. And also,
Gotcha.
like, we don't really have a setup in our house to stream. In,
sure.
what is it, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Lucas and Tyler and I are going to be playing a bunch of games on stream, so I will be doing that and also offering commentary right after the game. So tune in for that.
Look forward to those battle reports. Remember that in order to see at least most of them, you will need to be a member of the channel to look into doing that once those go up. Euless has a couple questions here about Necron stuff that I would be curious to hear what your thoughts on. Nick, we didn't cover a ton of Necron content today.
Yeah.
Says he's been testing a Night Scythe with 15-man flayed ones for for 2 turn 2 5-inch charges because the king is a magnet off in the side. 8th lives to turn 2 to bring in the second flayed one unit for a 1-inch charge on turn 3. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so Night Scythes I've been looking at, they dropped in points in Chapter Approved. For people not aware, they can transport up to 20 Necron, I believe 4 infantry, and pretty much everything got core now, so woohoo. They do have, like other transports, you have to get out before it moves. So you could like move really close and then drop out. But the cooler part about them is they have a stratagem where you can take a unit that's in strat reserves and for 1 CP deploy them wholly within 3 of the Night Scythe. You could like fly the Night Scythe up like right next to someone, drop the flayed ones out, and then you have a very, very close charge, or any other core infantry. You can also deep strike the Night Scythe and do this. You can deep strike the Night Scythe, bring it in outside of 9, deploy your guys from strat reserves wholly within 3. Now you have a 6-inch charge out of deep strike. If you're playing Novak, +1 to charge, you have a 5-inch charge. I do agree if you're playing big blobs of flayed ones like 15, 20, you should probably play them as Novak, because Novak gets +1 AP first round of combat. So now your flayed ones are AP2. Really good when you're giving them +1 attack with blood rights, double fighting for 2 CP. I've definitely considered it. I would have to change my list a lot because I'm now bringing like flayed ones, big bricks of them. I'm now bringing a Night Scythe. I'm now spending like CP on strat reserves and other CP. I considered it for Scorpex though, like 1 squad of 6 Scorpex coming out with like a nasty charge. I think I'd switch to Novak if I played this though, because if you're betting a lot of your points in your CP on a 6-inch charge out of deep strike, I'd much rather have that be a 5-inch charge out of deep strike. Like I've seen Lukas fail 6-inch charges rerolling critical moments and that lost in the game. So definitely something I'd look at. Definitely something that's pretty nasty. What I worry is your opponent's just gonna be able to screen out the Night Scythe, but I guess you could design the rest of your list to like clear screens, and then all your heavy hitter melee units are in strat reserves. So yeah, exactly. It's been fun. Yeah. So I'm gonna look.
I feel like that's especially with like for a while there's been not a lot of long range anti-tank in the game, and I feel like then that strategy is pretty good. But against anyone, like now that there's Tau, and especially now with Harlequins with strength 12 -4, like that absolutely dookies on a Night Scythe, and those are all just on the boats. So those things are zipping up and blasting you. Like the stonks are way down on the Night Scythe in any scenario where they could just pop it in your DZ.
In those games, you could deep strike it, but the thing that I worry about is like the new Harlequins coming out. They'll screen with their units that have a 1 CP runaway 6 inches when charged. So I think it's going to be really bad into the ST armies. But again, like Necrons kind of are, so maybe it's just worth it into like trying to beat the other armies. So, yeah.
Very cool. Moving on, I'm going to have Lucas field this question. If Death Guard got the Necron treatment, which I'm just going to generically say means updated through chapter approved and balance updates until they are brought back into line, because that's what happened to Necrons, right? They moved way up in the meta after getting a bunch of changes. How do you fix Death Guard, basically, Lucas? What do you think?
I would make the tanky faction tanky, and that would be more than just -1 damage. I think -1 damage is a great rule for them. I think army-wide 6-up Shug or 5-up Shug would be totally fine. I like that Death Guard have a distinct identity, which is like we're really slow and we're really not flexible. I think that's fun. I like when each army is very unique and feels thematic. And Death Guard feel thematic. They just also need to be good, unfortunately. And I think that's going to come in the form of they can keep their 4 and 5-inch move and no advance and charge. I think that's completely reasonable and fits with their aesthetic. Make them tanky and able to weather firepower in the midfield, and then they'll actually give people a run for their money. Like imagine Death Guard with standing in cover, -1 damage, 5-up feel no pain, or maybe like the Plague Surgeon or whatever can bring models back or something. That would be pretty cool. I feel like that would make them a lot more durable and not just like I'm just going to ignore you and hem you in. I mean that strategy still will work against them, but now you also can't just blast them off the table. Yeah, I think it'd be cool if Death Guard were just much more resilient. The other alternative is give them points reduction so they can just field more crap. But I would rather there be like an elite tanky midfield army, and that probably comes in the form of just
I generally agree. The exception is Poxwalkers. Please revert the Poxwalker change. That was ridiculous.
What, the points?
Yeah.
You can revert the points and make them tankier, and they'd still be completely
Totally.
reasonable.
Yeah.
The fact that they can't do actions is so bad. Death Guard have like no cheap obstacle.
That's
actions.
fine. That's fine. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Why did they go up in points? Why
Like saying,
can't
like-
the horde unit just exist?
They're
Let
already
the horde
like
unit exist.
mediocre. It shouldn't go up 2 points.
God,
like
it
it already
makes
has a
me so
huge
angry.
downside, which is you're bringing obsec troops that can't do action.
Okay. Speaking of durable things, Lucas, do you think Max Mega Knobs can survive a test
Nope.
shooting phase or are worth
Nope.
investigating?
Nope. Anything.
Next question.
Yep.
I don't actually have a next question. I think that might be our last question.
Yeah.
I
think
this guy says he's interested in Goffs. He doesn't have the threat range to just cross the board turn 1.
Yeah,
but
you usually don't want to.
Okay, cool. That looks like everything we've got covered there. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We will be back next week, unless I'm missing something.
I have a RTT on Saturday.
We'll figure it out. We'll be back some point next weekend.
Okay, we'll be back at some point in time in the future. In the meantime, if you enjoyed the show, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. There's a whole lot of content coming out of this feed these days. If you're on a platform that does reviews are wonderful. Again, if you love the content, I've been Tyler. If you hated it, I've been Innes. We're check out the membership options. We got crazy videos going in there all the time. Join us in the Discord if you'd like some more one-on-one conversation. We've got people in every single faction who are kicking absolute tail with it. And we hope to see you next time, whenever that is, to talk about, I don't know, something. With all that being said and done, I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
I'm Lucas.
And we'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Later, nerds.
Have a good one.